Hello, everyone, and welcome back to JaianMusic Notes. Extremely excited about this part 2 with the one, the only, Maddie Perrier. How are you?
I am great. Excited for part 2.
Yes, we are going to continue our deep dive in the world of music of RuneScape.
Lovely.
On the previous episode, talked a lot about the meme-worthy songs, the conception of the music, where it stemmed from, the different geographical areas of RuneScape in the music becoming part of the map, the world building via the music. There's a lot that we already discussed in part 1, so I encourage, if you haven't checked out part 1, please go check it out. It's the last episode in this podcast feed, previous of this one. On this one, we're going to continue this conversation, of course, with my dear familiar voice friend, Matt. But before we do that, a big thank you to the sponsor of JaianMusic Notes, Laser Audio Technologies. They make creative effects plugins, such as Fram and Glow, granular effects, incredible plugins over there. And if you use code JaianMusic, you get 30% off at checkout. All of the money generated from that code goes straight back into the show, such as GoPro Kyo, who does all of the artwork. Links in the description for all of that. Matt, how are we feeling post the first half of this?
I think we tackled the daunting stuff. I know it can get even more intense. There's a lot to cover, but I think we did a pretty okay job.
I fully agree with that. I think we did very okay. So we already talked about the MIDI era, the brilliance of the audio team over there. Now we can talk about what happened when RuneScape grew up. And that in 2011, we became even more orchestral. We launched into a much larger instrumentation. We kind of talked about it a little bit here, but what was your thoughts on just the shift into like a grandiose RuneScape in musical terms with the orchestra? That's a big step.
It is. And at the time, I loved it. I especially, I was still very actively playing RuneScape when it kind of launched into its RuneScape 3 era. I was very excited for like a graphical update. Things looked gorgeous. And again, I wasn't a massive PC gamer. I just had like the home office computer that I was playing on, and to see those graphics run was a really good exposure to new graphics. I didn't really have a modern console either at the time, so it was very exciting. It was I was super happy when that happened, and with it came the music, the reimaginings of like the older songs. It felt like your home just got the best of all makeovers, and I was thrilled. It was great.
I completely agree with you when you say that. I find that like they brought in like new compositions, people who are like more film composers, and then like we come to a RuneScape that we didn't try to like erase the MIDI legacy, but really to like recreate it, to honor it, and I feel like the guiding principles of that was just the keep the essence of RuneScape, but translate it to an orchestral language.
Yeah.
And
I think what they were sort of going for too is because obviously I have certain limitations with MIDI in a browser-based game back in the mid-aughts, but now they had the technology and probably the financial capital too. We have to remember RuneScape came from a very small studio that sort of grew with the game over time, and now they had sort of this budget to spend, and they were using the MIDI as sort of source material, but growing past its technical limitations and recreating the sounds that were made on a MIDI keyboard, using the real instruments, putting in all the real layers that maybe the original composers hoped to, and really coming out with a very film score-esque, very cinematic reimaginings of these songs.
Yes, but when you think of a composer stepping into such a legacy, and one that's like more into like the film area, taking on like beloved MIDI tracks, and translating them to the orchestral language, like I said. Outside of the technical limitations of MIDI, what would you say is like the biggest challenge in your musical mind?
I think the biggest challenge is finding someone who's well versed in composing for film and trying to convince him to work for a team for like a web-based clicker game. You know, like if I was Hans Zimmer, it would be really difficult for MapleStory to poach me. You know, like, so I don't know who was the sort of driving creative force of all that, and they did an incredible job. But yeah, I think a great composer's mind can hear sort of a very I'm gonna pause while I think of the word here.
Yeah, of course.
Polyrhythmic, mono. You know how the polyphonic, monophonic? I think monophonic.
Monophonic, yeah, of course.
Yeah. If you have this, a good composer can hear a source material that's monophonic and hear all the layers sort of beneath it. That's what a good composer can do. A good producer can do is take sort of the lead melody and build something beautiful underneath it to sort of support what exists at its core, which is what was front and center during those old school recordings. So yeah, really, really great job done by the audio dev team. And
so yeah, and to add to that, Jagex, the head of audio, and like basically Jagex and there's some other people, they reached out to one James Hannigan, and known for Harry Potter and many other franchises that like you're gonna be a fan of. He is the one that like brought it to a orchestral life. And I was just going through his website, and he's an award-winning composer. He's got his own little wiki page on the RuneScape Wikipedia, because of course he does.
You better.
And yeah, and he basically, the album here that we're talking about is RuneScape, the Orchestral Collection. Very straightforward. 33 tracks. We have the RuneScape theme, the newbie melody, harmony that we mentioned on the last episode.
Right.
Some like pretty like core tracks here for it. And like they took the Philharmonia Orchestra. They also had Pinewood Singers and the Slovak National Symphony Orchestra. And part of this, if I'm not mistaken, is where the Abbey Roads recording comes into the picture. That like film scores that are like extremely famous film scores also tracked at this very studio. RuneScape, this MIDI-based thing, steps into the cosmos of Abbey Road tracked video game film soundtracks.
I'm glad my mom's $5 a month fund to help pay for my RuneScape subscription went to something worthwhile. I don't know how they pulled that and to see them build to get to that point. Like they didn't cut any corners on the whole audio development for that new chapter of the game. And we're still reaping the benefits today. I think RuneScape 3 came out, you mentioned 2011 or so. That checks out in my mind too. It's still the same version of the game that they're on. Songs are only growing. Do you know, actually, if the Abbey Road recordings were only for the orchestral collection? Because I know they added hundreds and hundreds of songs.
So what I'm seeing is that 2012, we have the Slovak National Symphony Orchestra and Bratislava. And in 2017, we have the full Philharmonia Orchestra at Abbey Road Studio 1. That's all my research shows for that.
Great, yeah.
But insane to think about, like just the concept of like even you and I as like music audio people, like stepping into like where the big boys play, the big girls play, where the professionals play, like in our audio careers. We were like, wow, this is like the equivalent of that, but for like this is the biggest of leagues.
Really is.
This is the highest of honors.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Yeah. And the results sort of show like the wow factor of the music in the game just sort of skyrocketed tenfold. It's incredible how all of those pieces sort of came to be and still exist within like the existing engine and all these beautiful symphonic reimaginings of like the classic songs that we all like. Again, like I said in the last episode, it still retains its nostalgia, but now it's just a very impressive recording objectively.
And I see you as a very human person with like high emotional intelligence, and this is like a musical question still that I'm about to ask, but like just like reimagining such classic pieces into orchestral versions, like what do you think like emotionally that was like? Because I think that's like you're so attached to the classics, and now you're like, oh, it's time to step into something new. Like we're not leaving the mainland, but we're stepping into like something much more profound. That like emotionally, I feel like composers were very attached to our works. I wonder what that was like.
We are definitely, but I think even the composers of the original game can't deny that there were technical limitations at the time, and that's when you have to bring in a team.
Yeah,
you can't count on the same team from 2005 or 6 or whenever those songs got made. You can't count on them to then take it upon themselves because they have the means and the money to reorchestrate all their songs. It takes some outside help,
right?
Some collaborative work. I'm sure this is something that the Jagex development team pitched to these composers. Hey, we're taking your songs and we're reimagining them. That might be a little tough to swallow, but again, I think that was like the only way forward, really. You couldn't bank on work from 5 years ago to sort of chart the course of the game forever. So I hope there was some collaborative process.
The thing here is I feel like we could talk for hours and quite frankly, circularly about this whole Abbey Roads thing. It's really fun for me to talk about Abbey Roads because like through talking about anime soundtracks for about a year now, haven't had the chance to really approach that studio and talk about the history of that studio. Outside of like just Studio One, and like I had a whole spiel about how like the room's acoustics are and stuff like that and how I can hear it. But I feel like we know the impact, we know the sound, we know the signature of Abbey Roads. Like any well-vetted audio engineer gets this. But is there any specifics about that actual place, that actual recording room, or just studio in general that you felt like was an important impact on the soundtrack that you wanted to highlight?
That's a loaded question. I mean, I can't overstate the importance of Abbey Road as an institution, as a studio. I have not been or worked in that room. I do have some, I don't mean this as a Nepo baby thing, but I've got an uncle over in England who has had a music career and knows people who worked at Abbey Road. And like, again, top of the game. Like you can't find better rooms to record in. And I will say it does take a room like that to kind of deliver the quality you're looking for. You hire entire symphony orchestras. You have all these composers putting out all these layers. It's not something that you can like record on a Scarlett interface in Maud Ash's basement. Like you do have to go all out and get a pristine, Hollywood movie level quality recording, and so I'm glad to know that they've done all that. And again, the results speak for themselves. It's a fantastic piece of work.
No, it is a fantastic piece of work. And then there's also songs here I was seeing that were like didn't use any live orchestra, and are entirely produced by synths and samples, which like I think that Hannigan had. How can you say? You have like because he's presented this whole MIDI universes of universes at this point, and he reaches for live musicians, he reaches for Abbey Roads, but you also have digital tools that you can play into that. And what do you feel that does each like? What do you feel like the live musical players can do versus what the digital tools can do in like a newly released RuneScape sense? Do you see what I mean? Because that universe is still very vastly musical and in the storytelling.
Yeah. I think, if you're talking about sort of digital tools, I can tell you right away, as someone who kind of steers away from them. There's no denying that it does help in sort of getting the demoing process going. If you want to sort of chart out what each instrument is going to do, one person can do it with a laptop and have some digital tools to map out who's going to play which part and how it's all going to come together. The final result isn't like anything you could get from doing it with musicians and good quality microphones and preamps in a good room, you know? So I think digital is very, very good for sort of the brainstorming, the first few steps of piecing together the massive production puzzle. But I think once you have all that mapped out and you have yourself a good demo and your notation, your charts to be able to give to these musicians, then, you know, that's where they come into play. They have their multi-$1,000 instruments and their lifetime of training and dedication to the craft. Like, you can sample a very expensive violin in a good room, but to have a microphone on the same instrument doing a performance that is uniquely yours, it does come together in a sense that and it does bring a magic that I think is kind of lost with the monotony of sort of, say, like sample packs and sounds that other people can use. You have something that's uniquely yours. So if you're going to a place like Abbey Road Studios, you do want a recording that is uniquely yours because it hasn't been done before. Whereas if you're borrowing from other samples, it has been. There is a time and place for samples for sure, and it can work on a lot of final recordings too. And especially with more electronic music elements, if you do have a production that can benefit from sort of, say, drum machines, if you're doing like a cyberpunk soundtrack kind of thing, obviously you need some of those synthy electronic elements. You can pair them with something analog like that too and have a really cool hybrid effect going on as well. But for the sake of like a purely orchestral composition and final product, I think you kind of have to leave the all the recording and the final result stuff to the musicians in the studio and the space that you've shelled out the money for, you know.
I completely agree with you. Earlier on the last episode, you talked about like how when the new game version of RuneScape, there was like a bit of a revolt and like people only came back for the version 1, the original version, and that's the better version. And I don't want to get into all the semantics of that. But what I found through like my research is that when that split happened, like music was not the reason why people were like, I ain't playing the new RuneScape. It's really because of the gameplay and the actual like game itself.
Yes.
What do you think of that? The fact that the music gets released and it's like timeless and we could talk about it and it's its own separate entity and it's like a musical tapestry. Like, I find that so interesting that like you can get angry at a product, but you're like, but you know what? I'll still bump the soundtrack. That's crazy.
Yeah. I can't help but feel that maybe the composers and the music team that put all these hours into a new and improved version of the game kind of saw a big part of the fan base. And again, this was before old school RuneScape even came out. There was just people that were outright quitting RuneScape as a whole. Because yeah, with this new version of the game, there was a new combat system that was a bit more complex, a little bit more like sort of Diablo, World of Warcraft. It wasn't like this back and forth. You kind of like, I don't want to call it a basic combat structure, but they did kind of have this attempt to modernize it that wasn't really well received. And on top of that too, they got rid of things like free trade, like they imposed trade limits on players, so you couldn't actually trade more than a certain discrepancy of value of items between two players. They got rid of the wilderness, which was like the fun part of the game where it's like no man's land and you can die and lose all your items to other players. That's where other players went to, like, you know, beat the socks off of each other. But yeah, so a bunch of reasons for that sort of mass quitting, and then what ended up being a mass migration. And again, nothing of it had to do with the music. The music complements the game, and if the game isn't meeting expectations, then it's not the music's fault. But you know, everyone has their reasons to want to leave to go to something else.
I mean, honestly, Matt, like, it's crazy to think, like, over 2 decades, like a very small composition team. You start with like like MIDI beginnings, and we talk about incredible like meme impacts, world records, orchestral releases. Like, I just feel like it's breeds so much creativity, and that the music isn't in game, but like the game itself, it's part of that like core pillar to hold it all together. Like, do you have like, how can I even say this? How does it feel to have played and enjoyed like probably one of the most masterfully musically crafted games ever? The more I read into this, this is incredible stuff. Like, you recommended this topic for a reason, and I am understanding that reason towards the very end of this. No, but dude, seriously, this is massive.
It is, yeah.
Almost. It feels infinite.
It does, and it's all might not be infinite, but it's like the universe that we live in. It's like ever expanding. You know, there's always new maps and quests and musical tracks being added to this game. It only grows and grows and grows. And even though my time in the game is no more, but I always come back every few years. You know, it was really special experiencing all of this as a 10-year-old through miniclip.com on my family's computer, you know, with my like childhood friend next to me, be like, oh, you should play this game. And like, you know, it was all part of the experience. It's like you're new at life, kind of navigating online gaming for the first time, and you're new in this game, and you jump in, and there's something magic to it. There's so many reasons it was special, but the music definitely contributed. And to see it evolve kind of reflects on a way that we've all grown as people too, you know, like through having to go through the rest of elementary school and high school and pick a path in life and find a career and a partner and, you know, form a family, you know, that whole trajectory. For a certain amount of people, RuneScape was kind of beside them throughout a lot of that and growing with them too. So it's a little sentimental if I really want to dig deep into that kind of thing.
Man, I feel like this episode, I feel like we're earning our music cape right now. I feel like
you know what? We haven't earned our music cape until we go over all 1,000 plus songs on the soundtrack. So subscribe to our Patreon, where we're putting out a special episode every day where we do a deep dive on every track in RuneScape. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Jaian, thank you for letting me hijack your life for the next 7 years. This is going to be a doozy.
This is describing my dreams right now. Oh my God. This is amazing. It's the best thing.
We wish. But could you imagine?
Honestly, Matt, like
so much to cover.
I feel like I've said what's necessary to say without feeling more circular about it. Like, are there any major sticking points you really want to hit? Because I would almost say feel like I feel good with like everything we've covered.
Yeah, I do too. But like, good job to the team. Like anyone who had a hand in creating this music. Like, I've been stuck on a musical personal project of mine. It's like a 12-song project, and it's stuck in this like production hell, and it's gonna come out eventually, but like just the act of putting like an EP or an album or a collection of songs together. These guys release like entire discographies worth of songs over and over and over, and I don't know what the process is, how quickly it is to churn out like a filler song that's meant to be used for like dirt path between a city or to another, but like the scope is huge. I can't comprehend it, and it's ever growing. Mm-hmm. So to everyone past, present, and future who has had like a hand in being part of this, it's just such an incredible feat and an impressive one too. So hats off to all of you hardworking folk, for sure.
I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you so much, Matt, for taking the time on these last 2 episodes. Really appreciate you. Before we like get into the plugs and everything, you're clearly gonna be my music video game guy. What's the next game that you're forcing me through here?
Oh man, I have discovered Hades recently. I put in 70 hours into Hades, and now me and my girlfriend are like playing through it again together. And the music in that one is pretty fun. Although, like, yeah, this isn't a voice acting podcast. Hades, maybe something like Stardew Valley or like Minecraft, something that's kind of like
Valley,
a cozy,
I would be down with.
Cozy comfort game. I'd be down for one of those.
Okay, Stardew Valley. potentially podcasty coming out maybe in 2026. Okay? There you go.
Lovely.
There you
Lovely.
go. Take that. Lovely. Matt, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
Well, I'll do different plugs in my first episode because obviously if you listen to both of these, you don't want to hear me repeat yourself. You can find me at nuclearsound.ca. That is the music sort of production services that I offer for my recording studio or podcast recording services that I do. You can also find me on YouTube at City Sessions MTL. I do this monthly concert for my living room that I record and live stream to the world through Twitch and YouTube. But YouTube, you can go back and see clips from all the artists that have played. So we put out 3 videos a month of local and not so local artists that come by our space. And if you are in Montreal, you can come check out a show as well. But yeah, that's where you can find me this episode.
Thank you so much, Matt. You can subscribe to the podcast in your favorite podcatcher. Just look up JaianMusic Notes at JaianMusic on social media. JaianMusic.com is my website. And of course, you can check out the sponsor of the podcast, Laser Audio Technologies. Link in the description, 30% off if you use code JaianMusic on all their creative effects plugins. And of course, a big thank you to GoPro Keo for all of the artwork. So for myself and Nuclear Matt, this has been another episode of JaianMusic Notes. Goodbye, everyone.
Lovely.